Garden Joy, and I am delighted to be with you today. Today we are here live at Ask the Gardener, part of Home Garden Joy, and today we are answering a question here from Shelley. Now, Shelley is a gardener, and she asked the following question. And remember, here on Ask the Gardener, you can ask your questions live, or you can submit them through our Home Garden Joy Facebook page, which you're on right now if you're watching this video. So if you're here with us live right now, you can submit your questions through the comments, or you can submit them in advance. It's fine. I'm happy to answer your gardening questions. We're here live every week at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Or, like I said, if you can't make it live because you're working or whatever, just submit the questions and I'll get to them either here or on the blog. So today I'm answering Shelley's question about our favorite herb, catnip. Yay! This is my catnip. I actually just pulled this plant. You can see the roots are in the water here because I'm going to move it. I pulled this out of my tomato bed this morning, and I had to laugh because catnip is one of these herbs that once you put it in the garden, you will always have plenty of it. It seeds prolifically. As you can see right here, it's flowering right now, and this will make lots and lots of seeds, and it will just spread. So even though I haven't grown it in my raised beds in a couple of years, I still get plants. And look at this thing. It was hiding among my tomatoes. I pulled it out this morning because now I have my catnip growing next to the shed. She asks me about drying catnip. And she says that she wanted to know if it's still good. Well, Shelley, I think it is, and here's why. Now, Shelley mentioned that she dried her catnip using solar method, which is basically you spread the leaves of the herb. Here's the leaves. You spread the leaves out in a tray or on a screen, and you let the sun dry it, and that's fine. It's a great way to do it. It's a time-honored way of drying your herbs, and it's free because the sun is free, right? The only problem with that is that it can bleach out the leaves. And I think that might be what happened to your catnip. If you've left it too long, it can bleach in the sun, so it turns yellow. Another issue that may be going on, and I don't know if you can see the color variation here in my catnip plant, but the older leaves on the nip plant, which are down here at the bottom, they tend to be a little bit lighter green or yellower green. So if you used a lot of these older leaves, the larger leaves, to dry, that may also turn them a bit yellow. Your dried catnip. Now here's a jar of catnip that I've dried. Now it's not full by any means, but you can see the color down here, which is a nice bright green. This was dried using the dehydrator that I have. I spread the herbs out on the trays, and it takes about an hour or two to dry. You just put the leaves right there on the trays and let them dry in the dehydrator on the trays. That will keep the color nice and green, and it keeps the scent really strong for the cats. They love it. Speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about growing catnip and why you might want to do that even if you don't have a cat. Well, first of all, as you know, obviously the name of this plant is catnip, right? And the reason we all love catnip, I hope this won't get in my way here, but the reason we all love catnip is for our feline friends. Now, some of you know I have 7 cats. All right, and out of the 7, 6 of them absolutely go nuts over catnip, but one of them doesn't. So I looked into it, and veterinarians tell us that 30 to 50% of cats do not have a gene to respond to catnip. So that's really interesting. So that one cat that I have who just shrugs like, I don't care about catnip, he's normal. So if your cat doesn't react to the nip, or it does, it's based on their genetics. Another thing that I find very interesting is the chemical in this plant that gives it such a strong odor is nepeta actone. Nepeta is the Latin name for the plant. The botanical name is Nepeta cataria, catnip. It's part of the mint family, and one of the ways you can tell an herb is part of the mint family is you look at the stems. And it's hard to see here on the video, of course, but if you feel it, they're squared. Mints tend to have a squared stem. The leaves, if you can see on the leaf right here, they have a bit of a jagged edge to them. And they tend to have the same kind of habit, which is that they're very easy to grow. Or at least I find that they're very easy to grow. You can plant them anytime after all danger of frost has passed. Catnip grows easily from seed, so feel free to, buy the seeds at your local garden center and plant them. Or you can get a plant probably from a gardening friend. I know I gave some away this year, and I tend to give a few away to my local friends. But plant it in a sunny location. You can grow it in part shade. It will do just fine. It'll tolerate most any soils, but like most plants, it likes a nice, rich, fertile soil. Space the plants 18 to 24 inches apart. It will spread. They grow big and bushy. They grow about 1 to 2 feet. And what I do is on these plants, if you can see here, before it flowers usually, and again, this one was hiding among my tomatoes, so I didn't really see it, but I'll pinch the tips off. And that will encourage the plant to grow in a bushier, wider form than tall and lanky. I found that if they're growing in the shady spot next to my shed, which is where I moved most of my catnip this year, they will be a little bit taller and lankier than those growing in the sun, which tend to broaden out a bit and grow more in the bush form. It's normal for some of these leaves on your catnip plant. If you can see them, some of them have a little bit of a brown spot in them. Perfectly normal. It's not going to hurt your plant. So just, you can leave it. I don't even bother picking it off. I'll take these nice green leaves here and dry these, and I'll probably discard these when I dry this. I'll also discard the flowering portion of it, although you can keep that if you're using it to make any other kind of herbal thing out of it. I don't fertilize my catnip plants. I feel like they don't need it. I will water them though, especially if we've got a drought coming. Now, drying it, as I mentioned, you've got a couple of choices to dry your catnip. This one was dried in a dehydrator. You spread it on the trays, you plug in your dehydrator, put it on a low setting if you can adjust the settings, 1 to 2 hours, crumble up the leaves, put it in your favorite jar, you're done. It's great. You can also spread the leaves out on a tray and do some solar drying, which is perfectly fine. You can put it on screens and solar dry it that way. There's one other method which I also use, and that is if I have extra catnip, I'll take the leaves and the stems and I'll chop them up, and I'll put it in a paper bag, and then I'll hang the paper bag in my garage, which gets very hot and dry, and in a couple of weeks the herbs will be ready to go. I fold the top of the paper bag over before I hang it on the wall of my garage, just to keep bugs out and keep the dust from collecting on the herbs. Crumble it up, you're ready to go. You can also take that paper bag and put it on the dashboard of your car and park it in a sunny spot. That will also act like a solar dehydrator because the inside of a car gets really hot on a sunny day, and you can dry herbs that way. I do warn you, however, that that chemical in catnip is very strongly scented, and so if you don't mind the scent of it, great. You can do it that way inside your car. If you are a little sensitive to it, as I am, I'm like fighting a sneezing attack right now sitting next to my catnip plant because the scent is so strong. If you're sensitive to that smell, you might not want to use the car drying method, as I call it, or the inside your car, make it its own little solar dehydrator. Catnip is an amazing plant. It's got a really long herbal history, like of use in herbal medicine. People make a tincture out of it or a tea out of it and use it for stomach upsets. That's probably its biggest use. Some of them, the older books will tell you it's a bit of a nervine or a calming agent, which is, I've never used it for that, but I can see how it might be. And then again, stomach upsets, it's great for cramps. If you get like gas cramps, it's pretty good for that. And some of the older books will also say it's a good headache remedy. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I do know that those are the standard herbal uses of it, and it's fairly safe unless you're allergic to it. So if you want to try it for human use, look it up online, make sure it doesn't interact with any of your medications or health conditions, and give it a shot. Meanwhile, however, I have a bunch of kitties here who are really anxiously looking forward to their next batch of fresh catnip. So I will be signing off now unless any of our viewers right now have any questions. And I hope you've enjoyed this little discussion of this herb called catnip and how to dry it, how to grow it, how to enjoy it. It's beautiful, right? If the scent wasn't going to make me sneeze, I might actually keep it in this little vase that I plopped it in and just let it hang out in my office. I know the cats would appreciate it. So this is Jeanne Grunert for Ask the Gardener. Please take a look over at Home Garden Joy, which is our garden Gardening blog. We have over, I think now about 1,400 gardening articles, including a large and growing selection of articles about herbs. We have the Home Garden Joy Academy. This video will probably live there as well, so that anybody who's signed up for the Easy Indoor Herb Gardening class can also get a little update on our friend here, Catnip. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for joining us for Ask the Gardener. Have a great day and happy gardening.